Howdy, welcome back. We're talking about the DRIP/BUSD Garden. That is the DRIP BUSD LP token represented by plants and seeds. Now, I'm just going to answer this question. It won't take too long, but I've seen it asked multiple times in the Telegram chats and elsewhere. Basically, is the price of seeds, or more accurately, is the price of 2.592 million seeds going to reach zero? Is the plant price going to reach zero? And essentially, is that a problem for sustainability and all that, and your eventual profit that you're trying to be taking when you harvest? And I could see how you might be thrown off a little bit if you're using some of these schedulers, especially because they round to a certain decimal point. And so that looks kind of finite, like we're hitting a certain limit there. The answer is that it won't reach zero because it's from all observable data that we have. This is working off of a percentage, and that's the only way that it would make sense to begin with, is that it's working off a percentage of a certain amount of decay. And that's based on a number of factors, contract balance, as well as time that the game has been running in total. But so you're going to start to see larger fractional numbers towards zero. So it's going to be 0.000592, whatever, at some point. And we can kind of see this with the spreadsheet that I like to use. What am I at? 373. We're at 281699. And 2.592 million seeds is right about 0.091 right now. All right, and so we're going to see where we are at. And this is just assuming a 1.5% decay. Now, because of the large LP value drop lately, remember that this looks a lot higher right now. It may look like a 2 or 3%, depending on what timeline you're looking at. If you average it across a longer period of time, it may average out to be much lower. And that's more what I would look at, not necessarily what you saw yesterday or in the last 3 days. But you can see here this LP per plant, which basically is our plant cost. Yes, this is going to keep getting expanded like this. Now we're at 0.0006, blah, blah, blah. But remember that we're rapidly compounding plants, and it gets faster the more plants that we have. So, by the time you get down there, if you have 1 million plants, yes, now it's whatever price it is, but it's 1 million plants times that price. We're multiplying that. That's the power of the compounding interest type formulas that we're looking at here. So, yes, I'm at 0.002, etc., but my dollar value is actually around 2,000 a day. What if we put this at 2.5? Does that just completely wipe us out? Yeah, and so see, if we did have a decay that was... Oh, no, we're still increasing in dollar value, technically. It's just much slower, and you can see that as well. If our decay was that high, it's very hard to get ahead, although we should be increasing over time. It's very hard to do so. So as I've been kind of advising, and others have in the Telegram chats as well, to answer this question, yes, we will hit zero plant price, or, well, I'm sorry, we won't hit zero, but we'll get increasingly closer to zero based on whatever percentage of decay is built into the system, based on all of the factors like contract balance and the LP dollar value makes a difference. If this drastically drops, it'll look much more extreme one day, and if it rises up, say if it goes back up that 25, 26%, whatever it is, back to 39, somewhere around there, then we'll see basically a delay in the decay, rhyming unintentional, or it'll just slow down to an extreme crawl for however long it takes to even out that percentage that the LP dollar value price rises back up to. And still, if you're seeing a decline, you're not seeing the increase that you would expect. I think that makes sense right now because of the drop right here in the LP value. So I think a lot of people are going to be seeing that. Now, it is kind of leveling out, getting a little more horizontal price action. And so you may be even seeing an increase from where you were right now. You may be seeing an upward trend. But you would see that much more drastically or in an increasing fashion if the LP price comes back up like we hope it will, and if we get more contract balance as a result from people who are encouraged to, that whole FOMO, fear of missing out, they see everything coming back up, they may plunge in and help that drip price rise back up. As some have suggested in the comments as well, there's also that potential for, once everyone comes back in and sees a profit, people who have already been in here and they've been seeing a decline for so long, there's that possibility that, especially if they haven't been compounding as much as everyone else, they may not be seeing as much of an increase, or their decay is looking higher every day. Regardless, there are going to be some people when it comes back up that are going to just harvest. Now, it is worth noting, if you decide to do that, that is part of what's built into the contract, the game as well. That's part of the game as well, is that if you are harvesting way more than the average user in the system, you do lose ground. Your reward your LP per plant is going to be less, or you're just going to fall behind basically because you're not compounding as quick as everyone else is. So that is something to keep in mind if we do swing back up like I'd like us to. I want to see higher numbers so that I can also actually harvest now and then and not just compound every single day. But that's something to keep in mind, is that when that happens, we still need to stick to an intelligent harvesting schedule if you want to get your ROI back out, if you want to actually realize some profits. That's what you'll need to do, is still stick to an intelligent schedule, a good ratio, so that you're over the average user in the system. So that answers the question there. I think, yes, we will, no, we won't actually hit 0 per se. We'll just get fractionally closer and closer based on percentages. It's basically an infinite amount that can fit in between 1 and 0 when you actually factor that in based on percentage of decay, which is how it seems to be functioning right now. And when I average it out, by the way, since back to like February 22nd or so, or February 13th, I see about a 1.6% decay averaged across all of those days. That's not to say that some weeks weren't more and some weeks were less. And overall, you're probably still seeing a decline, especially if you don't have a lot of plants. And maybe even if you do have a lot of plants, you might still see a decline. And that's because this LP value did rapidly drop. No matter what the actual percent of decay is, this dropped very rapidly and added into that and factored into that rate. And so you're going to see a big rate. And especially if you have, say, a large bag, let's say you have 1,300 plants, remember that the compounding works both ways. So yes, if everything's going well, this is going up, but a small fluctuation, like we'd go from 39 and then one day it drops, it's not one day, but over the course of a couple weeks, it drops to 29. Instead of your 240 that you're making here, all of a sudden you're making 180. And that just compounds based on how many plants. It compounds based on, how many plants you have. What are we at right now? 0.09. And so that's just exaggerated or multiplied in your case if you have a very large bag of plants. Over that period of time, you're going to see a much bigger drop because it's multiplied by the number of plants you have. If we were at 39 and you were compounding diligently and you got up here and you were like, hey, I was at 236 and now this has dropped down to 29. Wow, that'd be a nice jump, huh? And this has dropped down to 39. You might be almost 20 days later, and if you're in this range, if you've been compounding once a day, it's going to look like you've not changed at all, right? Even if it was only even if it was only 1.6 as the percentage, we were at 39, and we were actually higher than that. We were at 40 something if you got in right before I did. So you're looking at 41 you've got 2,000 plants chilling there at 248, and now all of a sudden we're at 29. So yeah, this is pretty accurate. 248, that's about 22 days later. That's about when I got in. So you may have only seen an increase of a couple bucks, or you've seen a decrease depending on how often you're compounding. So I think that all falls in line, and once this swings back upward, we will see that change come back and put us back on track. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I keep saying in all of these videos. That's, if you're bullish on this system, that's what you hope will happen. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope that was informative or added a little bit of value. You guys have a great one. Thanks.